Good afternoon, everyone. We're coming to the close now of day one of our conference. And we've seen today lots of different themes coming through, but I think you'll agree that transformation through technology and AI have definitely been some of those really strong themes. And we had a great panel session earlier from Donal and some of his clients talking about AI in the new era. So we're going to continue in that vein now and talk again about AI, but talk about a very interesting question that's really consuming the AI community at the minute, both in academia and in industry, and that is, will AI be our savior or will it be our destroyer? So to help us answer this question, and I suppose delve into the complexities around this of building machines that will be conscious and will have human intelligence that exceeds our own, I have Prag Sharma, who is Global Head of Citigroup's AI Center of Excellence. So Prag is tasked with developing best practices in AI governance, compliance and risk and infrastructure and AI deployment in the bank. So Prag has been with CITI for a number of years now, I think since 2016 when he joined the CITI Innovation Lab in Dublin. And he's risen through the ranks and now holds a global role and has also been named as one of CITI's distinguished tech fellows, I think only one of 10. So I'd like to welcome Prag Sharma here. Thank you for joining us, Prag. So Prag is also taking time out from his holidays to be with us here. So you'll probably guess where he is. What's the weather like over there, Prag?
Yeah, actually, I was going to start by explaining my background just in case. I live in Dublin, but I hear I'm missing some really bad weather the last couple of days. So I'm delighted to be in San Francisco, so I wanted to show I'm there. But I'm really sorry I couldn't make it. I really wanted to be there at the conference in person. The weather is like Dublin, by the way, so you're not missing much.
That's what we like to hear. Thanks, Prag. Yes, exactly. So just to let you know, we are on a fairly tight timeline here. We have basically you and me are between the audience and a networking event with the Dublin GAA ladies and men's teams. So right. we're going to keep this brief, but really, really engaging. So let's start by talking about state of the art in AI at the minute. And I suppose, ChatGPT, it was released just over a year ago, and how it's really been a step change in machine intelligence that has taken, I suppose, both industry and academia by surprise. And what I wanted to get your thoughts on are these language models that power these ChatGPT type applications, are they exhibiting human-like intelligence? And is that something that we need to be afraid of?
Okay, yeah, so let's dive into the deep, messy end of the whole world of AI, the end where there's lots of speculations, lots of people with strong ideas like myself, and most of us are going to be wrong in the future because we don't really know what's going to happen. But it's always a good point. And we have this session now before the drinks, Nicola, so that everybody has a serious topic to talk about over drinks and maybe get heated and debated over this. Which side of the spectrum do they fall on? Okay, so having said all that, I think the financial services generally is very important for Ireland, and CITI has been in the financial services space in Ireland for a long time. We are very focused on AI here, and very much thanks to the IDA, for example, for the help over the years and the partnership. But the AI Center of Excellence, I'm based here, and I get the opportunity to sit in Dublin and think about the kind of questions you ask. So one of the first things to talk about when it comes to intelligence is, I was saying it's messy because we don't have a good definition of it. Okay, everybody walks away thinking very differently about what intelligence means to us. So if you take a dictionary definition, it means the ability to learn or understand or deal with new types of situations. And if you've been using a large language model recently, you're going to say, well, yeah, it has the ability to learn, it has the ability to understand or deal with new sort of questions that it hasn't been trained on. So from that perspective, it kind of has some intelligence. You'd be hard-pressed to say you don't think that your large language model is intelligent. But actually, intelligence includes a lot more than just language. there's spatial intelligence, there's musical intelligence, there's linguistic, there's logical, mathematical, there's interpersonal, there's intrapersonal. All of these intelligences together that we kind of, we do this seamlessly with ourselves. But the machine learning models, I don't think are there yet. At the moment, they're very much getting really, really good at the language part of it, slowly improving at the logical, mathematical component of intelligence. But the interpersonal, I think, has a long way to go. I mean, they can mimic whatever we ask them to, but that doesn't make it real. And they also, the intrapersonal stuff, the agency that we talk about, the agency that we have ourselves as humans, I don't think those machines have that yet. So we still have a long, long way to go. So the long-winded answer to this is no. But yeah, in some cases, they're showing intelligence. We are very much at the center of AI today as humans, and we still have a long way to go for these things to become more intelligent than they are today. That's my brief answer.
So do we need to think differently about machine intelligence then, and not really talk about human intelligence? Like, have the AI community got a spectrum or a scale of intelligence that they're working towards, and where are we on that scale?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we should think differently, and we can compare it to our intelligence. If you think about it, if I'm to think about how intelligent am I, you're going to get quite a few different answers depending on if you talk to my kids, talk to my boss. So it's a very different thing for ourselves to say how intelligent we are. But yeah, when it comes to the digital type of intelligence, you can look at it and compare it to our capability. So as humans, what does the digital world look like? And in that case, you have these three categories. You have this narrow intelligence. That's very much what we're doing today. So narrow intelligence is all about giving a machine a particular task, training it on a particular data, and it produces a particular result. So that's exactly where we are with the narrow intelligence. The general intelligence, when compared to humans, is that it is able to do a lot more than just do a particular task. It is able to mimic human behavior and is able to do most of the tasks that humans do well today. This includes some of the intelligence stuff we just talked about, spatial intelligence, linguistic intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence. And then there's this concept of super intelligence. And this is where we all get scared. And your first question was, if it becomes super intelligent, more intelligent than humans, then what are we going to do about it? So that's one way to categorize this. And I think a lot of the people, depending on if you're talking to a neuroscientist, if you're talking to a computer scientist, or if you're talking to a sales executive, you will get different answers on where we are in that spectrum. But I think we're still more closer to the narrow intelligence part than we are to general intelligence. And if you were to look at timelines also, you get different answers. So that's one breakdown. The other breakdown is in terms of what the capabilities are of the models themselves. And there's many different ways to look at that. There are reactive machines. They only do one task, but limited memory machines such as your self-driving car has some access to data and it can act according to that data. So some limited access to memory. And then theory of mind is that you understand that others exist outside of you. We understand that there are other human beings and they have a life of their own. Machines don't have that concept yet. So that is in the future. There's no such machines today that we have. And then there's the self-awareness concept, this consciousness question that can only be discussed over a drink, because it gets quite philosophical quite quickly. But then there's this concept of self-consciousness as well. Lots of ways to slice and dice this. But the simple point is we're a long way away from many of these things. What we see today is quite interesting, important, and useful, but it is not near the kind of consciousness and intelligence that you and I exhibit on a daily basis, sometimes seamlessly.
So if superintelligence is a long way off, could you still give us an idea of what it might look like when we get there? What sort of problems do you think it will help us solve?
Yeah, so there's some good sound bites here. They're not mine, unfortunately. People smarter than me have come up with these sound bites. So one that I really like Bill Gates, somebody else had this, was we overestimate progress in the short term, and underestimate it in the long term. That's really good and applies to AI more so than anything else. Because at the moment, the hype is, next month we might see super intelligence or general intelligence. But actually, that's unlikely to happen given the many, many limitations we have. But the long term is likely to be quite interesting. So that's one. The other thing that you asked, another quote I like is, I think we're a few Nobel Prizes away from general intelligence. And that's a really interesting and fun quote. It means we still need to come up with some big changes for this to take place. Anyway, once once we have general intelligence, what does it look like in popular culture and for some scientists as well? It is very dystopian, because that's the kind of stuff we've been consuming the whole time. We've been consuming dystopian AI in all the movies we have grown up watching and all that. But a lot of things need to happen for that to become reality, obviously. But what we should expect is, and I think the previous panel that I was listening to on AI said this as well, we should expect these models to get better. And by better, I mean they become more useful. Better doesn't mean they start attacking us. Better means they become more useful, and they become more useful in tasks that are completely boring. I'm being a bit flippant, but boring means tasks we do on an everyday basis that consume a lot of our time, but are going to be helpful because of these. So boring tasks, customer service, I heard as one of the final quotes in the previous panel. That is going to change. Program is going to change. So we should expect these machines to get smarter, more helpful. And then if a number of other technologies come together, we might see them leave our laptop. We can discuss that in the next question.
Yeah, so you mentioned that it's probably going to take another Nobel Prize or a Turing Prize or something like that before we get to that super intelligence. And I think, like, reading what Jan LeCun, who's chief technologist or chief scientist of AI at Meta, he thinks that we're sort of reaching the limitations in terms of large language models, that there are other people who think if we add more data, if we make these models bigger, that they'll have emergent behavior, they'll become sentient. But he thinks that it's going to take something really big. And one of the other big technologies that was making headlines this year is quantum computing. And I wonder if you had any thoughts on the impact that quantum computing is going to have on AI and where that might bring us.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Jan LeCun. I think he has a view that's slightly different from mainstream often, so I would encourage anybody who's interested in the space to follow or read up on his views. I think I agree with him to a certain extent that, maybe we are reaching the limits of current large language models based on this transformer architecture. One of the reasons is these things are getting humongous. They consume so much energy that they're starting to, have an impact. And they require so much data that it's not feasible to continue to keep training them. We're going to be running out of data as well, in the sense that there might be more machine-generated data than there will be human-generated data. So everyone should hold on to the data even more carefully in the future, because it's going to be worth even more if you generate it. But anyway, yeah, I agree with him that we might be reaching the limits. But there's a funny analogy, or a good analogy here. If you think about how we fly planes, for example, we have been unable to mimic how birds fly. But we have produced a technology that helps us fly a lot, can help us fly. For example, the wings of a plane. We can't do what birds do, but we can fly. I think the transformer model may be an equivalent from a language perspective. While our brain doesn't predict the next word in a sequence, it may be enough of a simplification for us to be able to do many, many things with it and go to a level beyond its current capabilities, potentially. But again, like I say, everyone's good at speculating. We need to figure out where this ends up. That's the first point. The second point that you're making is really interesting. You mentioned quantum computing. Actually, quantum is one of those technologies that we will definitely need for it to mature, for AI to become more mainstream. And one of the reasons for this is anything that can be parallel processed can be supported by quantum computing, and AI inherently, the new machine learning model, the future ones are going to be parallel processed, which means they are going to benefit from quantum computing. But just to put that into perspective, quantum computing has a whole ecosystem that needs to grow. It's not just about the qubits. You need a network that's quantum based. You need network switches that are quantum based. So this is a long-term play. Quantum computing is not happening anytime soon to benefit AI. But it's not just quantum computing. If you sit back and think about any single technology that has changed our world, it'll be hard pressed for you to think of just one technology. Think of the printing press as a good example. People say the printing press changed, but it took hundreds of years for that to change. So we need an entire ecosystem. Quantum computing is one of them. The models need to get smaller. The data needs to be more secure. Cybersecurity issues continue to rise and is a key component. So many, many things need to come together for this sort of intelligence to become real. Otherwise, we'll have really, really smart large language models that are disassociated from the world, really useful, but nowhere near the intelligence question that we're discussing today.
Great answer. Thanks, Prag. I suppose we're coming to the end of our session already, and this was a question that came up in the previous panel, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So we don't really know the timescale for superintelligence and quantum supremacy. But it's really clear that as humans, we need to retain our relevance going forward, even with these more simplistic AI systems that we have. And do you have any insights on how we can actually do that going forward?
Yeah, and it was a question that I think even in the last, even in the last session we talked about. I think our humanity is different. It is not easy to mimic. We can mimic aspects of it, like we just talked about, maybe natural language processing, or our language was a unique differentiator. But actually, we find that language is now, it can be mimicked by computers. So the same things apply. Be yourself. Learn how to understand the world around you, use your unique knowledge and know how to interpret the world, understand how these models work, what are their limitations. So really, the future is all about us. The interpersonal skills and the intrapersonal skills will become more important for those of us who find it easy to talk to others, convey our ideas. I think those are the skills that will increasingly become more important in a world where rote and even some sort of creative works can be automated.
Well, that's great news for IDA people, because there's no shortage of interpersonal and intrapersonal skills in this room.
I think you will be needed even more, Nicola. I think the resources that the IDA has are exactly the kind of resources that will be in high demand given this sort of technology coming down not the other way around. Computer scientists will also be needed, but quite a lot of their work could be automated. We need everything, is the point. But certainly, a lot of the creative stuff can be supported by these technologies today, which is great, which is how we should look at it.
Absolutely, they're assistants. So just any final thoughts before we say goodbye to you and thank you?
Yeah, I think get stuck in. It doesn't matter if you're in the health industry, if you're in the space industry, if you're in financial services, if you're teaching, if you think you have nothing to do with AI and it is unlikely to affect you in any way or form, that's fine. But I would encourage you to get stuck in, because what's happening now is we didn't need to get stuck in the past, because it was rote work that was being automated, such as digitization, reading this, that, and the other. But actually, what's being automated today is the creative aspects, some basic creative aspects of people's jobs and the way they think and react. And I think it's worth understanding how that works under the hood to a certain degree, so that you can exploit it and use it to your advantage on a day-to-day basis. I think if you ask the question, it'd be worth asking after, when you're having your drinks, how many people use ChatGPT today, or have played around with it, or regularly use it? And anybody who's not regularly use it, please take their name and tell them, listen, start using. So the simple message here is, this is super interesting. It's not going away. 3 words: get stuck in.
Get stuck in. Okay, thank you so much, Prag. Thank you.